Hello, everybody. Spot of Nerd here, and I figured we should talk about nerdiness in today's episode. Don't get me wrong, we will definitely be getting back to the other horrible shit that is, of course, going on in the world. So stay tuned. Actually, let's just get this out of the way. Please, please, please follow me and subscribe on Rumble if you haven't already. That's definitely where I'm starting to really push content to try and get more people to follow, subscribe, just as I'm having a lot more success there. And that success is leading to really cool and awesome things. So, huge shout out and appreciation to everybody that is jumping on there. Obviously, we're doing the YouTube still. Um, all these podcasts, I am actually creating videos for YouTube. So again, if you're watching there, appreciate it. And then of course, with this podcast, please follow me everywhere you can. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify. Spotify is pretty much where I would probably tell you to go towards, just for the fact that it seems to be the best place to hear everything. Um, I've kind of not really worried about. There's some episodes through Apple Podcasts that are not working. I, for the life of me, don't know how to fix it, but I know for a fact that every single episode is playing just fine on Spotify, as well as like Google Podcasts, and other places like that. So check that out. But again, huge, huge thanks and appreciation for all the love and support. So stay tuned because, of course, we do need to talk about the fact that I have a theory here, and I fully embrace the fact that I am a conspiracy theorist. But if there's one thing that has become kind of common over the last few months, maybe even last few years, is this Epstein client list. Apparently, everything else in the world has been leaked. You had the Roe v. Wade leak. You have recently the kid who somehow just in a chat room leaked the fact that the U.S. has involvement in the Ukraine war, and the U.S. and the Biden administration basically wants to start World War III on purpose. But it's kind of, there's this gigantic push for certain narratives right now and certain agendas, and it has us scratching our heads, some of us that are, quote, on the right or conservative, etc. And I was thinking about it because it wasn't until watching Louder with Crowder, Steven Crowder's show, which you should be watching or listening to on his podcast, because the man is a genius and will inform you to a level that if you haven't woken up just by one episode, I don't know what it will take to wake you up. But the bottom line is, this is now a fact, verbatim, that the United Nations is trying to make pedophilia legal. And Steven Crowder actually went over a segment that will literally haunt you in terms of just how evil the United Nations is, because apparently, the United Nations was created to bring peace, and it was brought back in the early 1940s or 1950s, somewhere around there. There has never ever been peace. And if anything, there has been nothing but just horrible shit. When it comes to rape and violence, all you have to do is look this information up. It is plain as day to find this information, and this is what Steven Crowder presented. So the fact that they're trying to make this legal for minors to engage sex with adults, I mark my words right here and now, and this is just complete hypothetical, alleged, but they're almost preparing the world to have this Epstein's client list revealed. And the reason for that is because there are going to be names, and I know you just have that gut feeling that there are names on that list that is going to turn this world upside down. We know Bill Gates is on that list. We know Bill Clinton is on that list. Like, I can promise the names that are on that list are going to blow your mind. And for what was done, I mean, again, all you have to do is look up the his wife's trial, Justine Glistine, I forget her name, but you know who I'm talking about. Epstein's wife, who is now facing 20 years in prison for basically doing all of this. This was a giant sex trafficking island where the elites would go, they would rape children and go about their business. Like it's not a conspiracy theorist. It's a fact. You can literally find this information through, the records and the data. This isn't like a right versus left. This is just fact. This is truth. The only thing we don't know right now is who was on that list, but we definitely have a lot of indication of who might have been. So it's just my theory. I really do think they're trying to brace the world for that, So we're going to talk about that another time because I really want to dive deep into some of the specifics, and we'll go full blow crazy mode when that comes. But for now, I do want to talk about the more subject matter behind this episode, of course, being today, which is Thursday. I guess whenever you're listening to this, we unfortunately but fortunately got to witness the series finale of Picard. And just yesterday or so, a day or so ago, we also got to see the season finale of The Mandalorian. And I've mentioned this before, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into the meat and guts of it because that season finale of The Mandalorian is literally the defining proof that Star Wars is officially dead. If you've watched or if you see on my Instagram post, I did a post briefly about it to where for anybody that has seen the movie Billy Madison with Adam Sandler, and at the end of it, they go through a test and the moderator or the whoever's hosting it, he says that's something along the lines of that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. People in this room are now stupider for listening. That is what The Mandalorian is, and it is what Star Wars is right now. If you haven't or you have seen both of these episodes, the series finale and the season finale, just a heads up, I'm going to spoil some stuff if you haven't seen it, yada, yada, yada. So this is your only warning. Stop listening if you haven't, blah, 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 blah. So this entire season of The Mandalorian, and I haven't been shy in saying this in previous episodes, has been an absolute joke. It has been proof that the writers of Lucasfilm and Disney have absolutely no idea where to take these characters or where to take this story. I will fully say, and I will always say this, that the first two seasons were some of the greatest Star Wars writing, storytelling we've ever witnessed. It is truly a masterpiece, some of these first two seasons. And again, I will say, they should have stopped it after season two. When Grogu is basically handed off to Luke Skywalker at the end of season two. So when season three came around, the earlier episodes, one, two, blah, 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 even I've mentioned through, again, previous episodes, there wasn't, there's no story here. It's like, what are we trying to do? Where are we going? You have Grogu, you have the Mandalorian, you have Mandalorians. What are we doing here, people? And it was nothing, all it was filler episodes. And they were so desperate for content that you also gave us truly some of the worst Star Wars content in history. Specifically episode 6, I believe, was where you had the one that had Jack Black and the musician gal. I don't even know what her name is, but it was, if there was a way to describe this season, this series, etc., it was so cringe watching this season that it's almost like you almost think they're doing it on purpose to just basically stick a middle finger to the fans of Star Wars and say, you're still going to watch it, so we're just going to give you bullshit, absolute crap. We're going to give you terrible story writing. We're going to give you cringe dialogue. Sure, I will give them credit. The visuals were amazing. But we're also, if anything, we're not even going to give you new content. We're just going to recycle the Clone Wars story arcs. And what I mean by that is if you're a fan of the Clone Wars, the animated series, and or Rebels, we've already done the Mandalorians. We've already done Mandalore. This story arc has been done multiple times. It's like watching Grey's Anatomy in season, God knows now, whatever they are now, 18, 19, 20, whatever it is. These are the same stories you've seen from day one. They're just trying to redo it. If anything, just call this the live action Clone Wars, because that really is all it is. So when they had, they have all these filler episodes, and then they have this Jack Black episode, and you really just kind of go, wow, this isn't even on purpose anymore. This is just bad. Like, this really is truly a death. This is worse than life support. This is the actual death of a franchise. And you could even see it. I've said it too, where we had Star Wars Celebration just a few weeks ago. It was one of the most boring experiences, cons I've ever seen. And it's just, it doesn't break my heart anymore because we've seen this coming for a while now. So, specifically with this season finale of The Mandalorian in season 3, again, with the visuals amazing, absolutely. But what on earth are you trying to do? It's the dialogue as if a 2-year-old wrote it. You're bringing in characters and story arcs from The Last Jedi, which to this day we have never forgiven Star Wars and Lucasfilm and Disney for creating such a disastrous film. Ruin Johnson, the director. You're bringing in characters from that era. You're also developing clones of the bad. I can't even remember. It's not even worth knowing the bad guy's name. The guy who was in the dark suit. You know him. But the bottom line is they're taking the clone concept a little bit further, and all it took was him escaping a couple bodyguards to destroy the whole idea. And then, oh, what do you know? We have this ship. Let's just go crash it into their base, the one and only base they have, and then there's that one episode of course they had where they're trying to go through the Coruscant city, and it's so mind-numbingly boring that it has to be on purpose because you can't be this bad. There's no way you can tell me that this was done to the idea that, like, they thought this was a good idea. That this is not anywhere near good things at all. And so the worst part about it is the way they finish season 3 is they're rounding 360 degrees back to square one, where the Mandalorian goes and says, "Hey, do you have any work I can do? I've got the kid with me now. What can we do?" And then they just end up back on the one planet we were familiar with. They just have their own little condo outside the city, and they're just chilling. What the fuck is that? Seriously, what on God's green earth is that? And I almost, like, they haven't made it official yet, but supposedly there's either going to be another season or potentially a movie to round out The Mandalorian. I would almost tell you, if anybody at all from Star Wars, Lucasfilm, Disney is listening, I know I'm, again, not very popular in the world, but maybe one day if this ever reaches somebody's ear, just don't. Because I can promise you right now, I will not pay and go watch anything. I will literally continue to, we'll just say I'll find ways of watching it, but there's no way I'm paying for that shit. And even the fact that now I'm remembering, they just crushed the dark saber, which was the only saving grace of a badass weapon in this entire series. You've now just destroyed it. Like, are you that what the actual fuck? So this is why, again, Star Wars is dead, which is of course going to lead me into why Star Trek is now taking the reins as being the champions in this. I guess you could describe it almost like an evolution into just how amazing and badass Star Trek is now. I've always been a fan. Star Trek Discovery. The last season, I'll be very honest. Maybe we'll talk a bit more about it later, but it definitely is starting to lean down that side of, okay, let's keep the politics out, keep the woke, let's get back to the storytelling. But then they brought out Strange New Worlds, which was incredible if you were ever a fan of the original Star Trek series. It's a what it is, it's a reboot of that kind of era of Star Trek. And then you have Picard. I've said this, and I know I'm a broken record moment here, but this entire final season has been nothing but a gift. I guess would be a way to describe it. A gift to the fans. And this is why I have to give so much credit to the writers, the producers, everybody at Paramount who are, creating this story. I gotta give my love to the actors and the actresses, Patrick Stewart, Jonathan Frank. I mean, everybody that is in this, quote, next generation Picard series. It's what it is, it's fan service. We don't need a lot to be excited or want to continue to watch this. Just give us what we want. Give us the Enterprise. Give us these classic characters. Give us good storytelling. Give us a good baddie. And that's what they did. They didn't give us any woke political bullshit. They just gave us a fucking great story. My only maybe little piece of criticism was, spoiler, the big baddie is the Borg once more. But the fact that and again, I've said this before, they are able to tie in every era of Star Trek and make this incredible story that could potentially branch out into other quote unquote Star Trek universe era story arcs. It's becoming a masterpiece, and it's just incredible, and so much love and devotion has been put into this show. I mean, the visuals as well are just no pun intended, out of this world. Like the best thing they ever gave us at the end of episode 9 in Picard was the Enterprise D. And in this final episode of the series, you have these animations of the Enterprise just beating the hell out of this Borg cube, and it's very much a Return of the Jedi flying through the Death Star. So you have the Enterprise literally flying through this Borg cube to try and reach the core to try to blow it up. All the while, you have Picard and Worf and Riker trying to stop the Borg from assimilating Earth, and it's just it's stunning. It's beautiful, and it's for the first time ever, I swear on my mother's grave, I will watch something, and I mean, maybe it'll take a couple months or a couple years before I go back and rewatch it. I actually watched I watched the same series finale, I should say, right after, because it was so good. I wanted to go back and rewatch it just in case I missed something. Because if you ever grew up with Star Trek The Next Generation with Picard and Data and Geordi, you know, there's so many callbacks. Data, of course, is starting to develop human traits and a personality, and he has these one-liners that are just, they're hysterical but amazing. And then, Geordi being the engineer, he can fix it all, and Worf just has no idea what to say in a room. Riker, that sly guy, and then you always have Sir Patrick Stewart, Jean-Luc Picard himself, who is the most honorable admiral that you have ever seen in your life. But it also touches on, like I said, other generations of Star Trek, where you have Seven of Nine sitting across the table from Tuvok, and she's shedding a tear because he literally is telling her that, hey, you are now officially a captain in the Federation. And it's like, fucking yes. They're giving us the fan service of new Enterprise. Like, we got to see the Enterprise F, the Enterprise G. Um, but at the same time, breaking off that there's a possibility we might get to see this so-called Star Trek legacy, where Seven of Nine and Picard's son, Jack, explore the galaxy in the new Enterprise G. It's so fucking amazing. And all they had to do was give us this fan service. It's amazing how these writers, producers, directors, studios, they haven't figured this out, and there's no wonder why. You look at Disney right now, who are losing billions, tens of billions. You look at Hollywood, Marvel, everybody is losing money like it is going out of style. But then you look at Star Trek, that for the first time has ever broken the record in terms of being in the top five most watched shows in streaming service. And the reason for that, like I've said, is you are finally giving it back to the fans. And I've said this from day one on this channel. I can give you so many examples, movies and television series. The moment you start giving us woke, the moment you start throwing politics or agendas or whatever media crap that social media is telling you into our shows and movies, that is when we will call you out and we will stop watching your shit, because it is enough. We don't need it. We have plenty of it in the real world. We do not need it in our fictional life. It is where we go to escape. And I will always, 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 always stand by that. I am a depressed person, major depression, health issues, chronic pain, etc. And yes, although I am better, the real world then tends to suck ass, and the only way I get escape from it is by watching my movies and watching my television shows. I don't need the real world in my television shows. So Star Trek figured it out, and this is why they are now officially the better genre, fan base, franchise, everything else in between. Is because they finally realized if you give the fans what they want, then they will watch your shit. And it is now proof. All you have to do is look at the data, the numbers, that it is working. You give us what we want, even though it's very, I'll say it, it's cliche, it's been done, but it's in a different direction. It's just exactly what we want. And I fucking love every second of it. And I cannot wait to see what they do in the future, specifically with Star Trek. So, if you are a fan, I encourage you to watch if you haven't already. If you're not a fan of Star Trek, honestly, just start with these newer series. Start with Star Trek Discovery. Work your way to Strange New Worlds. Start with these newer series. I promise you, if you give it a chance, I will bet you real money that you probably will start enjoying Star Trek more. And maybe you'll even start going back and rewatching everything else. But if you want to just get back to what good television is, Star Trek is the winner right now, right here and right now. So you can verbatim hold me to it if anything changes in the future. Right here, right now, Star Trek has become king. Ta-da. We will leave it at that, folks. Thank you so much again for listening and watching. Um, there was something else I was going to talk about. Oh, you know what? I love it for the comments because I was having some discussions at work and just talking to some people. Tell me, here's a question. Tell me what is your favorite moment in cinema history, and I will give you my example. I recently rewatched the first Back to the Future film, and there's a moment in that movie that always gets me a little teary-eyed, like in a good, passionate, lovey-dovey way, is Marty is playing the guitar up on stage. He's obviously wanting he's already laid out George, or not George, laid out Biff. And of course, they're about to kiss, and he's starting to disappear from history. But, that music starts getting to the peak of a chorus, and they kiss, and if he's back in the real world and survives. It's just one of those moments in movie cinema history that really gives all the good feels, and I encourage you to go check it out. There's a YouTube, there's probably some video on Rumble or YouTube, and fuck it, I'll put it at the end of this video here. So you might only hear it, but if you want to see it, go on Rumble and check it out, because it really was something I forgot about in the Back to the Future film, but it really also made me think, like, that is the definition of what exceptional storytelling is. I mean, you have everything from time travel, erasing from existence, to the love between, lovers, and just it's a beautiful, beautiful moment. They come together, they share the love, but at the same time, that love is what created, Marty McFly, and it's fantastic. It's fucking beautiful. I love every fucking second of it. Yes, Optimism up the ass here, people. You've heard it from yours truly, Spot of Nerd. It's something I guess you can get used to because, yeah, nobody likes the negative Nancy, but fuck it. Maybe I'll just do a little bit of both here and there. So, enough said. I'll stop rambling. We will see you guys next time. Later, y'all.
Play with his hand like that, and we can't play without him.
Yeah, well, look, Marvin, you gotta play. See, that's where they kiss for the first time on the dance floor, and if there's no music, they can't dance. If they can't dance, they can't kiss. If they can't kiss, they can't fall in love, and I'm history.
Hey, man, the dance is over, unless you know somebody else that can play the guitar. This is for all you lovers out there.
Earth angel, will you be mine? My darling dear, love you.
George, aren't you gonna kiss me?
I don't know. Scram, McFly. I'm cutting in.
Earth angel, the one I adore.
Hey, boy, you all right?
I can't play.